Okay, for this next exercise, we're going to be creating a watch face with a second and a minute hand. And the minute and the second hand are going to be constantly moving. The trick of it isn't so much getting the animation to work on it consistently, although we can absolutely do that. We can animate the whole thing. The trick will be to use what's called an expression, which is code, but we'll try not to make it too scary. But the code is going to make our lives easier by taking a little bit of animation, so animating the beginning of it and then consistently applying that animation over and over again. So we only have to do it once. So let's do composition, new composition. We're going to call this exercise 13. We might need this to be a little longer because we need enough time for the watch face to happen. So let's do 10 seconds. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to create a circle, no fill. So I'm holding down Option and clicking on fill until it's gray with a red diagonal line through it. I'm going to do a 2-pixel stroke. Left mouse down and drag. Okay. And move this towards the center. Let's give it a slightly thicker stroke. So we'll do 4-pixel stroke. So that is watch circle. And we're going to lock it. And we're going to have another layer, new shape layer. And it's one hand is going to be the minute hand. There we go. And let's give this a fill. Let's do white. And let's adjust. Let's grab this. Let's get rid of the stroke. And let's adjust the inside points. Contents, shape, path. Okay. And let's adjust the pan behind. Close contents. Click on it. We want the object to rotate from the center. See. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we're going to call this our minute hand. And let's create another new shape layer. And we're going to also use the pen. We'll probably need to give these different colors. Let's give the minute hand a red color. And the second hand can be white, but it should be a little smaller. Let's make it a little smaller. Okay, and adjust the pan behind so it's right in the center. Zoom in, move over here. Contents, shape, path, and let's adjust this. And adjust this point. Okay. So now we're going to move this whole thing over so that they're in the same place. Okay.
Let me know when you're done.
Okay, so we have the second hand and we have the minute hand. Let's just adjust the, there we go, and adjust the position a little bit. Okay. So what we're going to want to do is have it rotate. The second hand is going to rotate in little ticks, like tick, 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 where the minute hand should rotate more evenly throughout. So let's do the second hand. And let's go to transform. And it's going to be a constant tick, 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 tick. So let's have the rotation key. So stop position, 0. And then we're going to, let's wait about 3 frames. And I'm going to add another key, so no change. And then I'm going to go a few frames later. And let's try 5 degrees. Okay, that's a little too much. 2.5. Okay. And we want to move a little bit more suddenly than that. Let's just go into the graph real quick and easy ease. Ease. Okay, see how that looks. Okay, that looks good. So then it comes out, settles, and then we're going to want to pause. 1, 2, 3. Let's try 3. And I'm going to add another key. So now we have 4 keys. Doesn't move. Pauses for about 3 frames. Moves. Pauses 3 more frames. So let's see how that works. So what we're going to do is, and this might be too long of a pause once we start looping it, but let's see how it looks. We can always change it. So if we want to start creating a loop, I'm going to hold down Option and click on the stopwatch, but do it while holding the Option key. Otherwise, you're going to remove the work you did. And then underneath, it creates what's called an expression, which is code in After Effects, which I know sounds scary. We're not going to do too much with it. And we're just going to go to where it says Transform Rotation. We're going to go Loop Out, because we are looping out from these keys. We're starting the loop or the cycle after the keys and not before. So we're going to do a bracket, and then I'm going to use quotation marks. Now, continue is when it's going to keep continuing the action. So that's probably going to be the right one. We're either going to use continue or offset. Cycle is if we were doing something and we wanted it to cycle is going to look a little weird if we did it now, unless we ticked it back to the beginning and then it goes back and forth, but that would also be ping pong. A walk cycle, for example, would be something you would want to cycle. Once you have it beginning or ending exactly where you began, then you could use it as a cycle, and it should ideally be clean. But continue might be all we need. So let's try continue. Okay, and ending it with a semicolon. So let's click off, and let's see if it works. Ideally, it doesn't look like there's any change, but if it's done right, it should continue the way it was going. Oh, no, nothing. Continue. Nothing. Okay, so let's try offset. It's probably not continuing because we have it at a stop. So when it's stopping, it's stopping. So offset's probably going to work better here, and then continue will work better with the minute hand. There we go. Okay, so that worked. But I thought it was going to be too much of a pause. It's actually not enough of one. So let's expand this part a little bit. Let's expand this part a little more. Okay. There we go. So we're using offset because it's using the same numbers, but moving forward and forward. Continue didn't work because we had it stopped. Minute hand will probably work fine with it. So for minute hand, let's do rotation. And the minute hand's going to constantly move. It's just going to move very, very, very slowly. So let's try this point. And we'll have it move. Let's see, that's 5%, so, or 5 degrees. Let's try 1. Okay. Now we have it starting and ending. Let's see if that works. Now we should hold Option, click on the stopwatch, and where it says Transform or Rotation, let's do Loop Out. Quotation marks, and let's try continue. Because it's an animation from beginning to end, there's no pause, this should work. There it goes. You can see that the minute hand is going, slowly going. And if it's not going enough, you can go in here and you can always change it. You could change any of the keys inside. So now it's going to be going double speed, maybe a little too much. Yeah, a bit too much. But serves the purpose. You can kind of see the point that it is moving. Let's go back and change this to, let's try 1 again. 1's probably more correct. And there we go. And we have it moving with mostly code. You only have the beginning, the first tick of the second, and the continuous movement, so just where it starts and what rate you want to go in. So right now it's moving 1 degree per, and we can always change this if we want it to be 1 degree per second. It's probably a little fast. But just so you can see that there is a change. And that is animating with code. And it can be really handy because once you have the beginning done, you don't have to, especially in the case of the second key, or the second hand, you don't have to keep adding a ton of keyframes for no reason. And there's a whole bunch of different types of loops that you can do, or a few different types of loops. So offset is when it's going to keep repeating, but adding to it. So it's moving, I believe this was 2.5 degrees. So it keeps moving 2.5 degrees. So what it's doing is when it moves again, it's adding to the 2.5. And then it's adding to the 2.5. And then adding again and again and again, keeping it going. Continue makes it continuous. And again, the reason why this one continuous didn't work, or continue didn't work, is probably because it stops. And if it didn't stop, if it ended here, it would keep going. So for continue, it's when the animation is still moving, like still moving by the time it ends. Offset, if you want to keep adding to it. Cycle is if you want to keep repeating the exact same frame. So again, a walk cycle, a run cycle, those are great candidates for animation. And then ping pong is if you want to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So if I had done ping pong with the second hand, I'm going to do it as, it wouldn't be a good candidate for this, but you'd see what it does. So if we do ping pong, it's going to go back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. So it's just going to keep coming back and forth. Let's undo that. So that's good if, let's say, you have a pendulum going and you have it swing one way. Then you can ping pong it and it will swing the other way and then come back and then forth and then back and then forth. And that is using expressions to make animation quicker and less painful.